Hello, and welcome to this panel session entitled Optimizing Your Trajectory Through Thought Leadership, NASA Internships and International Opportunities. My name is Barb Esker, and I have the opportunity to serve as the moderator for this panel session. Please join me in welcoming our panelists. Ricky Roy, aerospace engineer, podcaster, and creative. Dr. Mary Johnson, president of the University Aviation Association. Dave Berger, STEM engagement specialist supporting NASA Aeronautics, and Christina Wilmoth, Dean of Students and NASA International Internships project manager. Welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for taking your time to be with us today. So how will this panel session unfold? Well, we will start with each panelist providing about 5 minutes of remarks to help set the stage. And after that, we will open it up and take questions from our audience. So I'm looking forward to a rich discussion, and I'd like to go ahead and start with Ricky. So over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ricky. I'm an aerospace system safety engineer, podcaster, and content creator. I'm from Singapore, and I moved to the US for university. I attended Georgia Tech, where I got my bachelor's and master's degrees in aerospace engineering. Throughout my journey, I have been really motivated to take initiative and lead from wherever I am. And I've been really inspired by the leadership concept of wielding good power. When I was a high school student, this meant being so compelled by an aircraft disappearance to pursue aerospace and to use my strengths in maths and physics for good. When I was an undergraduate student, this meant founding my home country, Singapore's first Women Leaders in Aerospace conference with my newfound expansive network from the Brooke Owens Fellowship for good. When I was in graduate school, this meant capturing my most meaningful conversations with astronauts, CEOs, and emerging leaders on a podcast for anyone to access across the world for good. And now, as a multi passionate working professional in my dream job, I create content on social media, helping my audience balance their ambition and well being for good. Along the way, I've also been really passionate about sharing resources for international students like myself and helping students reflect and turn inward in journaling workshops across countries and community colleges and universities here, like Yale and MIT. Today on this panel, I bring the perspective of a recent graduate and a foreign young professional who has been rooted in curiosity and perseverance through numerous failures to still be the recipient of their dream fellowships, scholarships, internships, and job, despite being underrepresented, underestimated, and often overlooked. I hope to shine a light on the importance of telling your authentic story, networking authentically, sharing your passion and what you desire, because you never know who's listening, and tools to turn inward to be able to capture your story and share it meaningfully. And through all of this, I hope I can encourage you to recognize your power and wield it for good, for Earth and beyond.
Thank you, Ricky. So at this point, let's turn it over to Mary Johnson, please.
Okay, hi guys. My name is Mary Johnson. I'm a professor here at Purdue, but my other role is also as past president of the University Aviation Association. I'm going to cue that first slide for me here. And it's the primary body representing collegiate aviation for a long time, since 1947. And just so you know, it's also the same year that the Air Force Academy was founded. Our website is uaa.aero, and that's pretty much the way you get a hold of us. Let's look at the second slide and give you an idea of what we do. We promote aviation excellence in collegiate aviation education. It's our primary mission. We nurture that link between the high schools, collegiate programs, and the aviation industry, along with government agencies, because I think you're going to find out from this panel that we're all not aerospace engineers. Most of us, I'm an industrial engineer, 3 degrees deep. So never thought I'd even go to college, but here we are. Let's go to the next slide, because this is important. We represent a great deal of universities, 133 colleges and universities with existing or planned aviation program. And it's listed in our higher education directory. Let's go to the next slide. we have a social media presence. It's pretty large. It's small but large. It's kind of one of those things. It's prolific yet not very deep at this point in time. Let's go to the next one. The things that might be of interest to this audience particularly are our Collegiate Aviation Guide on the left there and the Collegiate Aviation Scholarship. So where can you go to school and how can you pay for it? These are free and available on uaa.aero. It's the most popular publication that we have, and it is a one of the, well, if not the only one, it's the most complete one for sure. Let's go to the next slide, talk a little bit more about the Collegiate Aviation Scholarships. This guide alone contains more than $1.6 million in scholarships for aviation-specific programs. Part of this is that our organization alone awards over $160,000 in scholarships directly for aviation programs. Let's talk a little bit more on the next slide. One of the misnomers or the misunderstandings about aviation and aerospace is that it's all have to be an aerospace major or you have to be a pilot or a flight attendant. Boy, that is that's just not really very well understood at all. This airport management is a large part of the airspace management, air traffic control, again with air traffic management, airline and aviation management, avionics. There's a lot of scholarships in here for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Flight and professional training, certainly that's one people know about. General aviation, which I've spent a lot of my career on GA. General aviation, geographic, which state, there's opportunities in here for graduate school, undergraduate school, and high school. Yes, you can start your aviation career while you're in high school. International operations in here, mechanics, airframe and power plant, better known as A&Ps. We have a lot of our faculty here that are A&Ps in the university I work for. They're A&Ps with PhDs. It's kind of a rare combination. If you happen to be a military or a veteran or from a military or veteran family, there's a lot of opportunity there. And there also are some specifically for women. The amounts offered in here vary greatly from a low of $500 to $20,000. So I would encourage you to look at the scholarship guide if you're interested in aviation and even some aerospace applications. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And we always put this on here, hint, hint to all the industrial people out there. We are happy to include a company or organization scholarship in our catalog, free of charge. If you say to yourself, gee, I wish more people would apply, I wish more, whatever the right people are would apply, contact Jorge Gomez at uaa.aero, and he'll help you get your information into the catalog. One of the things I really want to emphasize is, again, there's always a misunderstanding that you have to major in aviation or aerospace to be involved in. I did not. I don't fly planes. I know how to build them. I know how to do a lot of things with airports, but I don't fly a plane. I like to sit in the back where the professionals fly up front. That's kind of the way I like it. I like the professional people up front and me relax in the back and get my work done back there. So happy to answer any questions on that too. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mary. I'd like to turn it over now to Dave Berger.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dave Berger. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm honored to have the chance to participate in this panel. I'd like to share a bit about my background. I grew up in rural Indiana. I was always interested in rockets and planes. I did rocketry in 4-H, but it was really my high school U.S. history teacher, Mr. Riley, who suggested I read the book The Right Stuff. It wasn't even part of a class. He just thought that I would connect with it, where I learned about the history of test pilots and engineers and experimental rocket planes. And that really inspired me to be an aerospace engineer. But even then, I didn't know an engineer until I went to college. And while at college, I saw a poster, back then it was physical posters, for a NASA Pathways internship, which, oh, by the way, is open till Friday for opportunities for students right now. But I applied, I made the leap. I moved 2,000 miles to NASA Dryden, now NASA Armstrong, where I had a chance to record space shuttle sonic booms when it landed. My dad was a sharecropper, and this internship really made all the difference in my life. I'm not just the research opportunities, but I made more as an intern than my parents made working much harder than I ever have, and so that's part of the reason why I love working in student engagement to help share that opportunity. I'm still amazed 23 years later what I get to do every day. I really like the speech by Neil Armstrong called The Engineered Century. He says, engineering is a profession which leaves its imprint on society in countless ways. Engineers are dedicated to solving problems and creating new, useful, and efficient things. In my career, I've been a propulsion engineer, a test lead, a systems engineer, a flight test engineer, project chief engineer, and then more recently, university affairs officer and education project manager. And now I think I have the best job in NASA, with no offense to my colleagues, on the STEM engagement embed to aeronautics. So I get to work with students, educators, faculty all day. No 2 days are alike, to do three things: to help provide learning opportunities to using NASA aeronautics content, to provide chances for students to contribute to NASA's mission, and all of that is wrapped up in developing our future STEM workforce so that for NASA and the STEM workforce for the nation will represent the diversity of our country. So I'm glad to be able to share opportunities for internships, fellowships, design challenges, how to find your niche at NASA. So thank you so much for having me today. And now I head off to Christina.
Thanks, Dave. It's an honor for me to be here as well, to follow all of you. What I hope the students participating today can see is that there are really diverse pathways into aeronautics and into space exploration. None of us have the same background. I myself am the fifth child in my family and the only one to graduate from high school, much less go on to college and then graduate school. And then I started my career teaching English. I always have to come out as an English major in NASA. I also have a science background, but it's that intersection between science and communications that has always been interesting to me. And I just happened to attend a career fair and came across an opportunity within NASA. And I've been here 28 years in an incredibly fulfilling career. So I am the Dean of Students at NASA Ames Research Center. I'm also the project manager for the NASA International Internships, which I will spend a little bit of time talking about, because I know today we really want to talk to those of you who are international students. I think in the chat they were going to put up also the regular intern opportunities, which you can find at intern.nasa.gov. But those opportunities are primarily for American citizens. However, we do have a small program for international students. We currently have 14 countries that have partnerships with us, and students from those countries can contact their home country and we have a list of those to figure out how to apply. And then there's one international university. So if you are not from one of those 14 countries, you can also look at the International Space University as an option for connecting and participating with NASA. But as you heard from Riki and from David and from Mary, there are many, many stepping stones along an aerospace or a space exploration career. And so I think that when I talk to students from all around the world, I think a lot of them are under the impression that you have to get onto one path and then that's how you get in. But the reality is each of us has built our own paths, and we do that through a number of ways. We take courses, we engage in activities, and in today's world being so virtual, all of the students have so much access to content and to engagement. So there we have a couple of links that we're going to throw in the chat here. The first one I'm going to recommend is if you explore the nasa.gov website, there's a section called Learning Resources. And from there, you can select the level that you are. And from your level, you can look at all the numerous opportunities that NASA offers for you, including student challenges, where you can look at content in any number of areas, aeronautics all the way to other types of science and research. So the challenges are a great way. You can do those as a team. You can do them as part of your school. There's lots of different ways to do those. And then also you can get involved in citizen science. And citizen science is really broad, and there are a number of different opportunities across the agency where you can personally get involved, whether that's just you yourself going out and engaging, or you're working with a club or with your school or lots of other ways. But each of these experiences helps you build a pathway into your aerospace career. I don't know where you're going to enter aerospace, but I can guarantee you that none of us did it the same way. So I'm hoping that you find those resources that are most meaningful to you and most interesting to you. And then the final thing I will say, I happen to work for NASA, but NASA is in fact very deeply involved in international partnerships. And those include both private industry. You will see all of the different companies that are helping us to advance space exploration today. And also international partners, meaning the space agencies and other science and technology agencies in other countries. So we really are a global endeavor, and there is no one path to working with us and to moving forward. But your own path is what you make of it and what you build yourself to make it interesting and fulfilling. And I think we're all here to say, no matter what your background, I really like what Ricky said about, you're leading for yourself, whatever that is and whatever your path is. So thank you for joining us today, and I hope we can answer any additional questions you might have.
Well, thank you, Christina, and thank you all of our panelists. I love hearing you tell your own stories. It's eye-watering and just so impressive. One particular question that I'd like to start with is it actually had its origins in our pre-meeting that we held last week. And in that meeting, Ricky, you talked a bit about self-rejection and how that is unfortunately a factor in people's choices looking forward. So I'm hoping you could share with the audience your perspective on self-rejection and how to handle that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for asking that question. I think there have been numerous times where, based on the circumstances and what you think your input has been, you don't think that you could produce a result that would lead you to the opportunity that you're putting on a pedestal. And in those moments, I've always looked to people who are already there, who are peers, who can create a safe container for me to vulnerably express those feelings of self-rejection, for them to hear them out and to encourage me to apply anyways, because I now perceive failure as not when I receive the actual rejection, but when I don't apply or try at all. And so reaching out to those people, those expanders, the people you see on the pedestals that you've put them on, reaching out to them through authentic networking, as I mentioned, to have them be your sounding boards and to leave that conversation feeling inspired and motivated to try anyway.
Thank you, Ricky. That sets the stage for a question that came in through from our audience, and it expands to the rest of our panelists here. With all of your various backgrounds, was there a point in your life when you felt defeated in pursuing your passion, and what helped you get past that?
Oh gosh, yes. I'm of a different century, so than most of the folks in the room. So I was actively discouraged because girls shouldn't be doing this. No, you need to be traditional role person. And I think I was discouraged in junior high, high school, college. Yeah. Even I think my biggest opportunities were given to me by companies with an idea that, hey, this girl can do something. Let's see what she can do. And I took internships during my undergraduate years and took other jobs as well. But when I worked in industry, in the aircraft industry, it was a lot of fun, and we enjoyed it, and we got to build things that are still flying today, defending our country at home and abroad. And I think that's a lot of the satisfaction you get is, is something does it match your passion. I grew up in the shadows of Carswell Air Force Base. Now it's a Joint Reserve Base. It's got another name, but we still call it Carswell because we're from Fort Worth. We just do what we do. And, hearing B-52s go off every morning, that's the home of the F-16, just a lot of excitement in that town, and actively discouraged. Oh, yeah, even doing a PhD, actively discouraged. But there were a few mentors, both men and women, that said, Mary, you can do this. You don't, I know you kind of hang dog, you're looking like, oh my gosh, I can't get this finished. You can do it. And they said, you can do it. And they had faith in me. And I super appreciate those mentors that helped me along the way.
Excellent. Thoughts from anyone else?
Yeah, I'll pipe in on that one because I may have a similar background to some of the things that our students are struggling today. And that was, for me, it was how to pay for college and advanced education. And I didn't have family resources to do that. And so I can just say I had to take a pause in my academic career. I had to return home after a year when I didn't have additional funding. I had to work and save up money and then start again and find a new way. And I think it gets back to Riki's point about that persistence is really key. Is that it seems like there are unattainable obstacles in front of us at times, and sometimes you have to take a pause or you have to go a different direction for a while, and that's okay. You keep your eye on the goal, and you may find a way back. And eventually, I did, and in fact, graduated with no student loans, which was something that was maybe today is so difficult to do. But I think Mary's given us good resources about scholarships that are out there. So, hey, apply, and also be prepared that it might just take you a little longer.
Any thoughts, Dave?
Just echoing what the other panelists said, I didn't get into the NASA internship program the first time I applied. I had to apply several times. I echo the perseverance and as others have said, look for multiple routes, look for multiple pathways. When I went to grad school, I thought for sure I was going to focus on plasma propulsion for the rest of my life and leave with a doctorate, and I ended up going back to NASA in aeronautics with the master's. And I would say for most people at NASA, the most successful people, they have not had what I call a linear career, that they maybe it's always great to have a plan, but a lot of the people, the successes that have made a difference in their life were something that came up, an opportunity that may not have been in their core area, and but they took a chance. It may not have been convenient, but they went for it, and that makes a big difference.
Thanks, Dave. I love what you said about having a plan. When I mentor young people, I tell them absolutely have a plan, but draw it out in pencil so that you can erase and change and adapt it. So one last wrap-up question on this subject of support and mentorship, and this is back to Mary. How might the students on the line find professors with an affiliation for the University Aviation Association that could serve as support or mentors? How do they find professors with that association?
So, like, for instance, if you're not in a collegiate environment and you're out, maybe you're in high school and you're thinking, who should I contact? Actually, contact UAA.aero, because there's our executive director, Dawn Benson. She is super about connecting students to professionals. They don't have to always be professors. They may be airline pilots, captains. They may be airline recruiters. They may be people in different aspects of this career field, and a lot of the folks just basically just volunteer to do it because this is a passion we have. We all have very similar stories. It's always amazing to me, first generation college student here, so therefore I mentor a lot of first generation college students, and because they don't know what they don't know. I get questions that you might be surprised. I get questions that people come in my office, which is fine, the scary professor, but they come in and go, my mom and dad dropped me off here. I said, how do I get home for Christmas? Because they've never driven, flown, trained, bused, or anything. There's no question that's dumb. There's only the questions that's unasked. And make sure that you talk to somebody. I mean, I can see people on this panel, and when I talk to any one of them, I'd be happy to, because you just need people who listen to you and just answer the question that you're asking without, it's not a space for judgment. So Dawn Benson or Jorge Gomez can help you at uaa.aero a whole bunch.
Thank you, Mary. That opens the door nicely for one of the questions that came in from our audience, and which is this: what is one thing you would say to students if they were to ask you what field they should go into if they are undecided? Anybody?
Mary probably answers those all the time as well, but she's in aviation, and I'm not specifically in a discipline. So I can tell you that the most interesting careers that I've seen people pursue are often at the intersection of disciplines. And when you're studying is the best time to explore those courses. So I started my career in astrobiology at NASA, and that really encompasses a number of scientific disciplines. And when I started, the scientists in astronomy and biology could not speak to each other very well, and they needed that help. And so people who were actually looking into courses in both disciplines, I would say the same is true for engineering and science and for aviation and science. Those intersections are the places, if you don't know where you're going, that's where you might dig in and find some additional interesting content that might tip you in one way or another.
Thank you. So a similar but related question targeted towards Dave, actually. You did talk about studying engineering and being an engineer, and then you moved into the educational arena. How did you make that jump? What motivated you, and how were you able to apply your skills in another area?
Thank you for the opportunity to talk about that. So for many of my colleagues, that was quite jarring that I would want to do something like that. I think that was in the back of my mind, always something I dreamed of moving into towards the latter part of my career, and I had the opportunity to perhaps do that a little bit earlier. I point to a couple things real quick. One, that there was the local college annex in my town where I lived, and there was an opportunity to teach a few classes using, and I got a chance to take the kind of the NASA mission and projects, and then use that in teaching about computer methods and programming for engineers. And once I started teaching, I was hooked. And then I think NASA all invests in their employees, and it's important to be a lifelong learner throughout your career. So they actually sent me from NASA Armstrong, where I spent about 20 years, to NASA Johnson to participate in a systems engineering leadership program, and I had a chance to work on Artemis. So how does that connect? Well, when I graduated from that program, I think it's really neat that NASA said, well, we invested in you in this training to advance you. It would be a waste to continue doing what you're doing. So you're not out of a job, so to speak, but you need to apply to something new. So I like to joke that I kind of tricked them, that maybe they thought I'd be, and I briefly was a chief engineer, but I thought, what a great systems engineering challenge as Christina said, at the intersection of people and technology and working together. In my opinion, a lot of times where projects fail is in the communication and the people side of it, not in that we computed the wrong answer. And so I thought, what a great systems engineering challenge to work with universities and students all across the country so that we could do more together. Because NASA may feel very big to the outsiders, and it is in a way, but to me, it's very small, and that we have way more ideas, we have way more challenges than we could possibly solve alone. And so I try to take that systems engineering approach and use it towards education. And so that's what I've been working on lately, and had a chance to work, mentor over 70 interns, and it's just awesome to see, their work far exceeds mine.
Thank you, Dave. A question, I'm going to start with Ricky on this one, but then I'm going to encourage the other panelists to jump in. Ricky, you spoke with a lot of passion for what you do and how you got to where you are, but you were also very self-aware and able to acknowledge, the self-doubt or the self-rejection as you talked about. So the question is along those lines, and it's, what would you recommend to a student that does not do well in grades, but does have a strong passion for science and or engineering?
I would say that I've been there so many times looking back at the piece of paper that doesn't reflect the effort I thought I put in. And what I would say to them is that, especially coming from the perspective of an international student who doesn't have a lot of time to fall down and get back again, and as someone who is in many ways expected to be perfect because the opportunities can feel so limited, that one, you can still get here. I hope that I'm living proof of that. Two, I hope that you find it in yourself to reflect on and honor what you learned both from the syllabus and from that experience. So when I failed statics for the first time freshman year and used freshman forgiveness, I marched myself into the academic coaching office. And I worked in that office as well as a front desk assistant, where students who would come in to the #1 aerospace engineering public university in the country would feel humbled and broken up about the grades. And you would think that more people would be willing to talk about it and share it vulnerably, but that is not always the case. And so there's always help, and there's someone waiting to help you always when you're willing to engage in that reflection and willing to extract those lessons from it. And writing down and quantifying what I learned, both again in the syllabus and just from the experience, helped me get back up fast because I didn't have time. And a lot of students who are international don't. They're on visas with the clock running from the moment that we get here. And so I hope this encourages you to take a step away and do some reflection.
Thank you. Anyone else? Because there is a related question that I'm looking at. So here's the related question. The previous question talked to challenges with grades, but this one is similar, and it says, what advice would you give to a student who's applied for a load of internships, but none of them have panned out?
Okay, let me just start this one. I think everybody can jump in. I help people get placed into internships in my role at the university, and have done this at other universities as well. Yeah, use the resources of your university or your college or your high school, and learn how to interview. It's not how smart you are so many times. A lot of it's how you present yourself, and it's very, very frustrating for a lot of 4.0 students that don't get jobs as many as the 3.5s or the 3.2 students get. And they don't understand. They think it's all about grades, and it's really about your experiences and how you spend your time, kind of echoing a little bit about what's been said, and get those internships. And you think, well, I can't get an internship. If you've ever worked Walmart, Target, the ice cream shop, put that down. And I was a hiring level manager for a long period of time at a company, which means I made the decision, yes or no. And wow, I could tell within 2-3 minutes whether I wanted that person. I'll let somebody else talk about this part.
Thanks, Mary. I think I have a couple of additions to that. You make really good points. I also think that we see one of the things that students don't understand is that we have about 28,000 applications per year for about 1,600 to 2,000 internships. So a lot of times it's just the sheer luck of numbers. So it's really not about your individual background or not being good enough. It's just that there weren't enough opportunities in that given year. So please keep that in mind. And also, I'm beginning to see some trends which are helping students in their resumes, because you might not even get to the point of an interview with so many applicants in the pool. As Mary was talking about, make sure your interview skills are good, but also look at what you're putting in your application and how you are presenting yourself there. And one tip I will give you for today is look at the discipline you're going into. Figure out what the technical skills are, whether that's software, whether it's a particular piece of lab equipment or some sort of engineering experience, and self-assess where you are. If you've done Python, for example, and you feel like you're a 3 out of a 5, you want to put that on your application. That helps a mentor know whether the project is at the right level for you. And believe it or not, they might not choose someone who's a 5, because they really are looking at learning experiences. And that might also be why someone who's a 4.0 doesn't get selected when a 3.5 does, because we are looking at students from all different perspectives, and we're looking at a lot of students. So do the things that help you stand out, but also, be representative of really who you are as a person in your resume or your Vita, whichever you're uploading to give us that information. And so you need to know what those technical skills are, and then what your own rating of yourself is against those.
Thank you, Christina. Ricky or Dave, any thoughts to add?
All great input. I'd add for NASA specifically, if I know it can be difficult because we all want to graduate on time, and it can be hard with your classes, but if at all possible, here's an insider tip. This fall and the spring, we get many fewer applications than we do for the summer, even once you scale for the fact that we have more opportunities in the summer. So, and kind of along those veins, look for, be open to other opportunities. I believe in the last year, we've gone from a limit of 15 applications to you can apply to as many as you can. So maybe look for those other opportunities, even not in your core area. And the way I like to say, with everything is a computerized system now. So by the time the mentor, someone like me, is hiring, we see everyone that is in the right major, that is has the minimum GPA. And I'll say, by the way, I've seen no correlation, I don't want to speak for NASA, but between GPA and the outcome of the intern. So for a lot of mentors, that's not the deciding factor. So what I look for is, how did you demonstrate you want to work on this opportunity outside of the classroom? So that may be a club, that may be an activity. It doesn't have to be formal. It could be that you built a robot in your garage or something like that. So how did you demonstrate your interest in this area?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Dave.
And what I'll add is that I didn't have opportunities as an international student to intern at all, really, until graduate school in a technical capacity. And so all of those research experiences, both paid and unpaid, led to me demonstrating that interest and articulating that story on my resume. And when someone would read my resume, they would see that consistent demonstrated interest in whatever capacity. And when they would speak to me, they would see my face light up when I would talk about what I really wanted to do. And when they would look at my website, they would see all the ways that I showed up for that journey and for that path. So there's so many things that you can pursue, even if it's not official, like Dave said.
That's fantastic advice from all of you. I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. There's a question that came in through the chat that says, can someone talk about the benefits of going to a community college for an associate's degree, and are the trades still needed?
I'll talk about it real quick and then I'll let you go. In aviation, the trades are definitely needed. There's a shortage, a nationwide and international shortage in two major areas. One is pilots right now, but the other one is aircraft, airplane and airframe and power plant mechanics certified by the FAA or EASA or anybody right now. yeah, you can't fly if the aircraft is not airworthy. Okay, and there's also going to be a shortage. They predict in controllers and air traffic management personnel. There's a lot of the FAA that is retiring out. A large hump of them, so to speak, in a graph. There's a big pile. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity there to work with a lot of our in my role here at school. The AMPs typically get picked up by NASA or Barrios. Barrios Technologies, which is a major contractor for Johnson Space Center down there. They pick them up. Just don't be afraid to turn a wrench, so to speak. There's skills and trades are needed. Yeah, I'm sure let somebody else talk.
I was just going to say, for NASA Aeronautics, the answer is absolutely. There's a strong demand. I want to highlight one thing is wind tunnel technicians. We're actually seeing where a lot of our workforce is retiring out, and we're losing that institutional knowledge, and we need more technicians and mechanics. And the pendulum swings back and forth, but I would say, my opinion, career technical education, skilled technical workforce, especially in aeronautics, both inside of NASA and with the explosion of advanced air mobility. One of the NASA leaders likes to say, we're going to need aerospace in every zip code. And I love that saying, that it's not just a few airframers in a couple states in the country. We're going to need operators, pilots, mechanics, maintenance people in every single zip code very, very soon. And we're starting from a base where it's, as Mary said, we're already at a workforce shortage. So very important. Just want to say real quick, we do have NASA Community College Aerospace Scholars, a community college program to learn about NASA and come to a NASA center to do a team-based hands-on experience. And I know NASA Langley in Virginia has an apprenticeship program for technicians and mechanics. Thanks.
Thanks. I have a question that has been back in my mind, and it's for Christina. And you talked about aerospace, the field of aerospace needing all kinds of backgrounds and all kinds of skill sets. And you did admit that your background is in English. So the question is how do you use your English background in your day-to-day job?
Yeah, thanks, Mary. I tend to de-emphasize, my undergraduate work in biology, but partly because I do feel that the communications and what sometimes people refer to as the soft skills, I will call the people skills, are as important or more important in my daily work or in a lot of what I do. So I think in the same way that people who bridge between science and engineering, between science and communications is the same. There are things that you learn in being a critical thinker, which come out of the humanities and in many of the disciplines associated with the humanities that are really important in the business world and also in managing an agency and managing the types of projects that we encounter regularly. And so I encourage students who are in those fields to also look at ways that you might find a crossover, find a particular passion. For me, the technical work of what this agency does is just incredibly compelling. I read about it, though it has nothing to do with my job. I spend my time scrolling through the science and following up on what we're doing. I didn't know anything about the X-59 until that information came out, and I was so excited for what we're doing there. So I think a lot of it is driving that passion, but also using skills that you learn in other areas, including artists and others, graphic artists, and so many people in different disciplines are needed to help us advance what we're doing and the way that we're thinking. And then the last plug I'll say is I'm also a science fiction fan, and I can look at every single thing that we've accomplished technically, and I can trace it back to a science fiction author who represented it in some way, and it's now today. I mean, these young students today don't realize that we didn't used to have doors that we approached and that automatically opened for us, and now we all enter a regular grocery store and find this to be true. That started in science fiction. where people began imagining new things. So if you're imaginative and you have those particular passions and interests, there's a place for you in space exploration and aeronautics.
Thanks, Christina. Okay, we are getting close to the end. I'm going to do one really quick lightning round, and I mean lightning round. So panelists, be quick. What is the one piece of advice you would give your early career self?
Sure, take more risk. Take more risk. Engineers are like us myself are pretty much naturally risk averse, but I guess I felt like I internalized too much of the beat downs that I'd received over the years, and I'm like, dude, I'm actually pretty darn good, okay? And I had to convince myself of that, and then just get more. And I have no problem at all telling someone right now I can build you an automation system within 6 months. I don't care if someone's been attempting to do so in 2 years and can't get anywhere. We can do it. We've done it, and we'll continue to do it. And a lot of it is just take more risks and develop that confidence from taking risk.
Thank you.
I'll add, in addition to taking risks, just focus on your passion. Follow it wherever it takes you.
I'll echo Mary. Don't be afraid to fail. If you're not challenging yourself, if you're not struggling right now, then you're probably not challenging yourself enough, and you're not going to reach everything you can accomplish.
And Ricky, you get final word.
I'm early career, so what I tell myself is to stay in the game, and the only way that you lose is if you quit the game.
Thank you. So with that, I'd like to thank our 4 panelists. I've truly enjoyed our time together, and I know our audience has. Now we'll be transitioning to our next segment. Next up, we are excited